Sup world, here we have an updated Barrage Max Roll guide for Season 2, Season of Blood, and it just absolutely tramples all over all content. Interestingly enough, the Vampiric Powers don't add much to the build outside of a few rather small quality of lives, so this can be played on Eternal Realm or even before you get the right packs for your Vampiric Powers. So let's get right to it. While this is technically a bow build, this is more so a mid-range hybrid build that requires you to be aware of your positioning. At mid-range, the arrows flare out, allowing you to hit all targets within the cone for a nice area of effect spread damage. At close range, all the arrows can effectively shotgun a target, making this build also very good in single target situations. This is a jack of all trades build that can legit do it all. The playstyle revolves around using Shadow Step to activate a multitude of buffs, including close quarters combat and eventually to Boss Will unique effect after landing a puncture shortly after Shadow Step. Once buffs are activated, the carnage begins, rotating between both Shadow and Cold imbuements, while keeping Barrage beefed up with the combo point specialization. It is a pretty speedy, active playstyle, but rewarding once you get the hang of it. You can even humble Lilith with this setup without having to change your build at all. She falls easily, just like all the new bosses introduced this season with this build. For skills, we take Fundamental Puncture for our basic attack. This gives us access to a slow and vulnerable, while the spread makes it easy to hit with, thus allowing easy stacking of combo points. Advanced Barrage is the core skill of which the entire build is designed after. After stacking 3 combo points with Puncture, use Barrage to unleash multiple arrows in a wide cone that's great for clearing. These arrows can ricochet when they hit a vulnerable target, so Exploit Lift is great for this. If 4 arrows ricochet, we gain 20% more critical strike chance on our next cast. We get close to shotgun all arrows to burn down single targets very quickly. Pop Mixed Shadow Imbuement on Barrage to further enhance our clearing capabilities, as well as provide a debuff on mobs that survive the first shot. There's synergy with our imbuements in the Paragon Board we take, Eldritch Bounty, so we want to make sure we have an imbue each time with Barrage. Mixed Cold Imbuement is where we get some nice crowd control and massive damage numbers due to all the buffs it provides. If you manage to freeze, not only does it make it safer for you in tough fights, but gives additional multipliers and making quick work of leftover targets after a well-placed Shadow Imbuement cast. Countering Smoke Grenade adds a nice way to prevent mobs from attacking, which is very useful for disabling most elite affixes. Mobs that are dazed by Smoke Grenade also takes 25% more multiplicative damage, making this a nice way to add both some defense and offense with a single support skill. When doing super speed farming in areas like Helltide and Blood Harvest, you can drop this skill for dash to get around even quicker if you would like. Disciplined Shadow Step is responsible for setting up the build. Use Shadow Step to a safe target to activate buffs, then evade away before starting your rotation. The reduced cooldown will allow you to pick a new target to Shadow Step to after using up both charges of Shadow or Cold Imbuement while keeping your buffs up for a somewhat in and out playstyle. Shadow Step also gives you a quick burst of speed for getting around quickly and a way to get out of crowd control situations. While you don't see Dark Shroud on your bar, it is the 7th skill in our arsenal. It is procced by the Umbrous aspect, so we get it for free. Points allocated to Dark Shroud works on the proc shadows, so we want to do that for additional toughness and movement speed. For passives, we take Stutter Step for movement speed. We take Rugged because damage over time is still busted in harder content. We take Weapon Mastery for additional critical strike damage, which is a multiplier. We take Concussive to open up trick attacks, which synergizes with the Mangler's aspect for great crowd control. We top off Exploit and Malice for more damage, while taking Precision Imbuement for more critical strike chance to Barrage while it's imbued. Frigid Finesse ensures our Cold Imbuement packs even more of a punch. We take Shadow Crash to get to Consuming Shadows for energy management, though when you get to the To Boss Will unique pans, you can drop both of these and place them anywhere you like. We take Adrenaline Rush to get to Haste for additional energy regen and movement speed, and we take Close Quarters Combat for our key passive. Due to its synergy with damage versus crowd control, we want to take as much of this stat on Gear and Paragon as possible for a ginormous multiplicative bonus capable of reaching over 140%. Here's a quick look at the skill tree and the point allocations. While you're doing so, check out the sick cursor color. I literally had no idea this was a thing in options under gameplay. As someone who always loses their cursor in combat, changing the color and the contrast is a game changer. If you haven't done so already, be sure to transmog your cursor. Now, back to the build. All right, so we're gonna go over gear real quick. We're gonna start with weapons. We're gonna talk about the stats first. Generally speaking, you want dexterity, all stats, core damage, and damage to crowd control enemies. Damage to crowd control enemies being the most important one because that's the one that is going to scale with your key passive close quarters combat. So you want that over anything that you can possibly get as a priority stat. All of the others are more so you want to try to get unconditional damage types because those are the ones that are going to be easier to proc. So core damage, that is why that's there. But if you roll distant damage, close damage, crit damage, or vulnerable damage, those are okay. It's not what you really want, but you know, you got to go and you got to go roll with whatever you get, right? So that's for weapons. Going for rings, same thing. You want damage to crowd control enemies for the reason that we gave before. Crit chance, lucky hit chance, and then you also want maximum life as your primary ones. If you get other damage stuff, it's okay. But here you generally want the utility. Amulet, you want to do movement speed. Movement speed is just so good on a rogue, so it's great to always have that. You want to go with the exploit passive here. It's now best in slot in terms of that over weapon mastery due to some of the changes to crit and vulnerable. I have armor here, but that's just what it rolled. But in reality, if I can get like imbuement or ranks to imbuements, I would rather go that route. So basically cooldown reduction, movement speed, ranks to imbuement, exploit passive is kind of what you want on the amulet. Going towards the helm, you always want total armor. Maximum life is really good. Cooldown reduction is also very good too. And generally you want a single resistance here too as well, but I'll talk about that in a second. Chest here, you want to go all defense. You want to do damage reduction. You want to do total armor as well. Close damage and distant damage would be pretty good to have as well. Max life is also a pretty decent backup. I know you see single resistances here, but that's just how the card is laid out for me. Again, I'll talk about resistances in a second. Grasp of Shadow just comes as it is. I think it's just best in slot for a lot of builds because of the +6 ranks to all core skills. If you don't have one, take a regular glove. You're going to get lucky hit chance, crit chance itself, attack speed, and of course ranks to whatever ranks to barrage. Then to boss will, we kind of talked about this being bugged a little bit earlier. Hopefully very soon they'll kind of have that fixed. But anyhow, if you get to boss will, this is what you'll wear. Without that, you would want to go regular pants with imbuement cooldown. You want to do damage reduction, total armor as well, and either max life or damage reduction to close enemies. Then for boots here, now I guess I could talk about the other stuff too as well, but movement speed is extremely important. Is your top priority, number one stat here, and you want the implicit the attacks reduce evade cooldown so you can be very, very nimble. But as you can see here, I have 3 different single resistances, and that's because with the way that resistances are now, they are additive and they can be capped at, well, here as you can see 70% in World Tier 4. So you generally want to try to find some way to be able to cap each one of these, and the easiest way to do that is to have at least three resistances on your boot. Take a 4th single resistance, usually on the helm slot is kind of where you want it, and then the one that you don't have, you'll take the gem and put 2 of those in your jewelry to be able to hit your resistances cap, and it's usually pretty easy to do so when you go that route. So it's very important that you save your boost slot to be able to handle all the resistances there. In terms of aspects is concerned, for the 4 offensive aspects, you want Edge Master. You always want that on the weapon because you want the big damage. But as far as Corruption, Edge Master, as well as Branching Volleys, those can go anywhere else between the 3 here. Wherever you put them is fine. For the Amulet, you're going to want Umbrus because that's going to give you free Dark Shroud, and having it on the amulet gives you a really high chance of getting the Dark Shroud, making you pretty tough easily. So you want that there. For the helm, you want might. Might's actually decent defense until maybe if you can get a shackle. If you can get a shackle, obviously you'll put that here. But in the meantime, you will go up might here on the helm. Then for the chest piece, you want disobedience because we want to cap out our armor, and disobedience is still really good, even if it's just going to help you reduce your physical damage here. As you know, Grasp of Shadows here. To boss will, these are uniques, but if you had an extra slot, I would probably take either rapid, accelerating, or even vengeful on the glove. And if you had the extra slot here on the pants, if you don't have to boss will yet, you can do cheats for more defense easily. And then for boots, we have the manglers, and manglers is going to cause them to be dazed whenever you hit them. Or a chance to be dazed whenever you hit them. And with trick attacks, if they're dazed, they're also knocked down. So that kind of gives you a lot of crowd control and helping you stay alive too as well. So then we have the sockets for your defense slots, your pants, chest, and your helm. You're going to want the rubies. Rubies just give you maximum life. Maximum life is good defense. The other options aren't really that great right now at the moment, so ruby is what it is. When it comes to the jewelry here we talked about this before. Whatever element of resist you don't have, you want to at least put 2 gems here to kind of get that resistance cap for whatever element that you're missing. As you see here, I actually have skulls here for armor, but that's just because my chest piece had 2 single resistances and I haven't found anything better yet, so this was my way of kind of getting around it. So again, you have to kind of play, fit the pieces of the puzzle and see what's going to work for you in terms of the jewelry slot itself. When it comes to weapons, you see skulls here, and that's just because due to the crit damage nerf, the emeralds and sapphires are just not that good anymore because it's just additive, and it's such a small insignificant amount of additive damage that you just don't notice anything like at all whatsoever. At least with the skulls, you do get some life on kill, and you will notice it a little bit, and it's tangible, unlike the others. You don't need any damage to ultimates, you don't need damage to basics, you don't need damage to damage over time because we don't do that. So skulls is really, as crazy as it sounds, the best option you kind of have for the weapons. All right, going with the Vampiric Powers. As I was stating before, in this build, the Vampiric Powers don't really make that big of a difference in terms of what's going on here. It's more so quality of life things, which isn't a bad thing. This means that you can do this in the Eternal Realm, or you can do this in Seasonal and do just fine. But the 5 that I really feel are the most important to kind of take would be Prayer in the Weak. This is going to give you some vulnerable damage here, and you're going to proc vulnerable quite a bit. Naturally, we have Undying. This is basically, life steals, so you're gaining life as you're hitting something. This is very valuable. This is probably one of the better quality of life stuff you can get from the Vampiric Powers here. Then we have Resilience. It's just basically damage reduction because, well, why not? Then we have Moonrise, which is going to give you more attack speed as well as more movement speed for just attacking, and it lasts for 10 seconds, so you can kind of keep this buff up quite a bit. This is one of those things you would notice quite a bit because it just makes you more nimble, and shooting faster allows you to kind of drop an aspect on your gear to be able to do something else different. So this is why I kind of like Moonrise here. And then of course Hectic is probably one of my favorite ones that seems to be a sleeper, and this is your basic attack, reducing your cooldowns by 2 seconds after firing 5 of them. So since you fire your basic attacks quite often, you'll notice that all of your cooldowns do reduce quite quickly, making you be able to use your imbuements more, your shadow step more, your smoke grenade more. So it just makes everything, like the whole flow of combat, even better. And you can kind of trade out most of these for the most part, just to kind of see what fits you. You can do Fortify, you can do Metamorphosis, even the Metamorphosis is not necessary. You can do a Cursed Touch. Again, the souls aren't that great, but I mean, I guess it's pretty cool to do if that's the route you want to go. But these are the 5 I believe that have the best synergy with this particular setup here. And last, we talk about the Paragon board. Let's actually go over the glyphs real quick first. We're going to take Ranger, Canny, Control, Exploit, and Infusion. So this is the starting board here. We're going to slot Canny in the starting board. And we're going to also pick up the Resilience node down here. This is very, very important that we do so because we need to take at least 2 of these to comfortably cap out our resistances on our character. So please don't ignore this. This is very important to grab, and also grab early if you want to survive in the harder tiers. Then we go up and we grab the cheap shot board, and the reason why we take that quickly and first is because the cheap shot board has a bunch of damage versus crowd controlled stats, and of course with the close quarters combat, guess what, we scale really well with that synergy. So the more damage versus crowd control we have, the bigger that multiplier becomes. So we take as many as we can down here with calculated and press here to just stack the, as much as we possibly can. And of course we also take the control glyph for even more damage to crowd control enemies, so we can really buff that multiplier a lot. Then we take a couple of things here for damage reduction. So this board is going to be a board that you're going to take quite a few things from. We go north next for our third board. This is the no witness board. We're going to slot the exploit glyph here. We still need that because we want to be able to make our barrage ricochets happen on hit every single time, so we can get some decent AoE clear. So exploited does have a use here. For your fourth board, you want to go to the right and take the Eldritch Bounty board, and this one is probably self-explanatory. All dual imbuement builds are going to take Eldritch Bounty because it's just best in slot for these type of builds, because we're usually imbued with some sort of element. We want to put the infusion glyph in this board here, and then take the surrounding legendary, or take the surrounding nodes here. We're going to go path up as like usual, take the legendary node and take some more of this stuff here. What's very important here, like I said before, this is a different type of resilience. This is again more all resistance here, and this is the second one that you would take, and this one is pretty easy to get to, so this is the reason why we come here. And we also get a little bit of damage taken over time reduction, which, as we all know, the damage, the dot damage in this game is still quite BS from enemies in World Tier 4, so having a little bit of that also helps too. We also go south to the Tricks of the Trade board, and we're just going to plop Ranger Glyph in here, and we're just going to just pick up as much dex as we possibly can here. This board doesn't really offer much, but we're just trying to get our Ranger Glyph as high as we possibly can, and Tricks of the Trade is a really easy board to do that with. So yeah, that's your Paragon board. And this concludes the Barrage Guide for Season 2. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. You can also check out the written version on Maxroll in the description. And as always, till next time.